Hi guys, very good morning. This is your Shivakumar Kalal. Let me start our discussion where we have stopped our discussion at configuring networking properties, where we are talking about networking and sharing center and networking connection. Before going into that, one of my colleague asked me a little more clarity on networking related stuff. So let me go into that doubt. So whenever we have a two servers, I have a server one here, okay, and I have one more server. If these two servers are wants to communicate with each other, how this communication is related to TCP, how this communication is related to UDP, and why we are blocking the ports, what are the ports, and what is happening inside the firewall, and why we supposed to do this. So this was his question. So let me give you a little more clarity on this. As I told you, I have very clearly told you. So I have one computer over here, okay. I have so many applications installed inside the server. Assume that I have an active directory, I have a DNS server, I have a DHCP server. Just for your understanding purpose, just I'm keep telling all those stuff. So I have different applications installed this computer. I have the PowerShell also, I have a command line application, I have web application. So much stuff is there. So just below this I have the firewall installed. I have firewall installed, okay. So this is a software firewall, and then I have the NIC card, okay, and I have the NIC card over here. And once a NIC card is there, so the same thing you can assume it is also there inside the second server. So this is the same setup exists in any computer, you assume, because every computer is associated with a lot many applications whatever you install inside them. So this red color box is showing firewall. Fine. So we told very clearly, whenever you want to make the communication between the two devices inside any network, what is a network? This network wants to communicate with these devices. What is the protocol? What is the medium? What is the way of transport, way of communication? What is the name of it? It is TCP IP communication. You knows this very well, okay. I was keep stressing about this. Without TCP IP communication, there is no networking stuff going to happen here, okay. TCP IP communication. So whatever may be the device, it may be different device rather than laptop, computer, server, printer, whatever may be the network device. The device wants to communicate with the other device, we call that as a TCP IP communication. So whenever you set a TCP IP communication, but you are showing a UDP also there, and you also showing a lot of protocols, remember one point. Let me repeat one more time. TCP IP communication is not a single communication, it is a TCP IP protocol suite, which means there are so many different protocols combinedly together. We call that as a TCP IP communication, out of which what are the two different very popular transport mechanisms. One is UDP transport, second one is a TCP transport. So don't think UDP and TCP are different. These are the part of TCP IP communication protocol. So inside this TCP IP communication protocol, we use two different modes of transport. What does it mean? Whenever you want to travel to one location to another location, what are the things that you do? Maybe you will be going over bus, like that is a one way of transport. Maybe you are going over air, so the Airbus is a one more way of transport. So you are choosing a two different modes of transport, right? In the same manner, whenever you want to send some packets from server 1 to server 2, then we have a two different modes of transport. One is UDP transport, other one is TCP transport. These are kind of buses. So through bus your packets going to travel. So assume that this is your bus, so this bus is going to, just whenever you send some packets from your active directory, it goes from the firewall and then NICOD, and it directly travels from over the network, and then if it is a TCP address, it must know the IP address, so it goes into this server. So what is this mode of transport? It's a kind of bus through which whatever the data that you put inside this, maybe small packets, within the small packets, whatever data you will send, that will be traveled. Okay, so like small packet will be keep transporting. So here UDP and TCP are two different transport mechanisms through which data will be passed, data will be traveled, data will be transported, and from one location to another location, one device to other location or other device. So in this mechanism, when we use a TCP communication, when we use a UDP communication, okay, so you have a computer one here, okay, and you have one more computer here. You want to see the ping response of this particular computer. So which computer response you want to see? The particular computer. So you must know what is the IP address of the destination. Then only you will be sending some data. And then you will be like, okay, what do you do? You will send some packets over the TCP, okay, and it reaches this server, and then this particular server will reply back to this server. So what kind of transport we call this? This transport we call a TCP transport, TCP communication. Why I am saying this is a TCP communication? Because you knows which server you are contacting. You knows very well you want to reach destination server IP address. You knows, if you know the IP address of the destination server, we call that as a TCP communication, because it's a very reliable, it's very particular. You want to send your newsletter, you want to send some postcard, you must know the person's address, then only you will be able to send to that particular person. That is a situation where you will use TCP communication. Let's go back to one more. What is that? UDP communication. Let's assume there is a different mechanism, there is a different need. You don't want to know destination address, just you want to broadcast your information. Let's assume you are in a village and you want to know your village head address. So there are so many people around the your village, or so many people are there, so many houses are there. So you want to know who is the village head address. So that was, let's assume this red color one is your village address, and you are here, okay, you are here. So what you want to know is, you want to search, you want to identify which person is your village head. What you have the option? You don't have IP address, you don't have particular address of that particular home. Then what you will be doing? You will be doing the broadcasting. What is meant by broadcasting? Broadcasting is something you will be sending the packets to each and every device over the network. So I'll send some packets to this computer, I'll send packets to this computer. You don't know which server you are sending, but all these servers are connected over the network. What does it mean? All these servers are there within the network. There are so many networks are there, but only these devices only connected to the network. So you will be sending packets to each device, every device, and when you send your packets to the particular device, so this is your village head, so that is a device you want to search within the network. So you are sending packets to that, then this server going to reply back, yes, I'm the person you are searching. So you see the difference. In the first way, where you knows very well whom you are sending the packet, that is a TCP communication. In the second transport, you do not have any idea whom you are sending the packets. This is a UDP transport. So whatever the packets that you send to this particular device, okay, you are sending some packets to this device, right? In this packet, you do not keep any IP address of the destination, just you will be broadcasting to the entire network. Now you may have a question like, okay, so I have one more network here, there are lot many devices placed inside that network. So is it going to broadcast the same information to that particular device, that computers as well? No, this will not broadcast that information. Why? I'll tell you in future classes. When you have two different networks, these networks are connected over the router. So anybody remember, whenever you want to broadcast the information to that device, first you need to broadcast the information to the router. After the router, you need to broadcast the information to that particular network. Then it will be just you can send to lot many devices. How many devices you want to send, that many devices you can do it. But this is not possible. Anybody remember, I mentioned one point, router, whatever you see here, which is placed in between the two networks, will never broadcast the packets. Router will not allow the broadcasting. It will only allow the TCP communication. What is TCP communication? Which means, first what you need to know, you have a device over here, you want to communicate with the device over here, then you cannot do the UDP communication, you cannot broadcast. What you need to know, what is the IP address of this server. Then what it does, it goes to the router first, just here, and it knows IP address of the destination. Router understand, okay, this particular person wants to communicate with other device which is there in other network, so go here, because he already comes with the IP address. That is a major difference between TCP communication and UDP communication. Now, what is a real-time scenario where you will use this TCP and UDP communication? For TCP, I told you, ping response is a kind of TCP communication only. But when it goes to the it's not exactly a TCP IP communication, you will get a response back, but ping is something ICMP protocol, but it's also works in the same manner where you will be getting acknowledging. But have you heard about DHCP DORA process? You might have heard in your real time. What happens, you have a DHCP client server here which is in a red color. This DHCP client server needs an IP address, so it do not have any IP address with it, and it is asking someone, please provide me IP address. So what it does, this DHCP client server will make the UDP communication, not TCP communication, because itself is not having any IP address, and it don't know what is the IP address of the other devices. So it will keep sending the messages throughout the network. Hey, are you a DHCP server? Are you an IP address provider? Can you send me the packets? So it will keep asking everybody, excuse me, are you an IP address provider? Can you please provide me an IP address? So it will broadcast information to every device over the network. And over the network, when I say the network, within only that particular network, what are all the devices are available in that particular subnet, in particular that network, it will broadcast to only that network. And whenever it reaches to the original device, let's assume that red color one is your DHCP server, it responds back, hey, I'm the person you are searching for, take the IP address of this particular thing. So that is how the communication happens. Now you got a clear picture where how the DHCP server is making a UDP communication, how the other servers wants to communicate with the other server, it makes the TCP communication. So it's very simple. When you know the destination IP address, only one device, then it is a TCP communication. When you do not know the multiple IP addresses, when you want to broadcast information for everybody in the network, and you don't want to know whether it is reached or not, you do not know any idea whether it is reached to everybody or not, because you do not know that reliability. You don't get any acknowledgement in a UDP communication. But remember one point, UDP communication is a damn fast than the TCP communication. Just it will keep sending the packets to everybody and someone will respond immediately. So that is what happens in a UDP communication. DNS server, DHCP server, all this does that UDP communication. That is a point I want to make. Okay, now we are clear. What is a UDP communication? What is a TCP communication? Assume that this particular server, whatever you see here, okay, is a DHCP server, okay, and you have DNS client here, okay. So what happens, this is a UDP communication, fine. I have one more server. I have one more server which is a DNS server, and I have the DNS client here. Okay, so this is a two different devices having the multiple applications installed. Now both are UDP communication only. Am I right or wrong? Both are UDP communications. But how can you differentiate? This is a DHCP communication, this is a DNS communication. Both are UDP communication only. UDP communication starts from here, it goes to the router, it goes to the network, and it goes to the another device, and it reaches to the firewall. Within the firewall, you need to separate it. So on what basis you will be separating the traffic? So what they do is, of course, whatever the DNS makes a communication is a UDP only, whatever the DHCP communication is a UDP only, but let's differentiate the traffic between the DNS server and a DHCP server. They introduced a concept called ports. So let's say DNS server makes the transport over 53. 53 is a port number of DNS. Okay, so it makes communication to the port 3. So UDP communication is coming with port number 53. Hey, you are a port number 53 communication, right? So you goes to the DNS server. That's as simple as that. Next, one more UDP communication is coming from other device, and it checks, hey, what kind of communication it is? It is a UDP communication. That is fine. What is a port number? Port number, if it is coming with a 67, which is DHCP communication. Okay, port number 67 is important. You remember this for your interview purpose. Okay, this port number UDP communication is coming over the network. It is coming with the port number 67. So you belong to DHCP communication. So go and reach the DHCP server. So that is the difference between port number. Now you have a requirement. Hey, there should not be any DHCP communication over the network. I don't want allow that, because some people, some hackers are making that getting IP address assigning from some other devices. I don't want any DHCP communication happens over the UDP. Please block it. So what they do, they will simply block it. They'll simply block it. So this particular port number 67, which is a DHCP port, they will block it. So till firewall, the communication comes and it gets closed over there. So you will never see the DHCP communication in that network. So that is what it does. Let's assume you have a TCP communication. So I told you, here we have the Active Directory. Okay, this complete device is making communication with other device. What it does, so this is a TCP communication, you are very sure, and you have like something PowerShell, right? You have a PowerShell and you have one more PowerShell here. This PowerShell both are a TCP communication. How can you differentiate between these two different TCP communication? Let me go back here. Here you will be able to send a TCP communication, TCP transport, but when it comes to the firewall, so it sees, okay, this is a TCP communication, and it will check what is the port number of this particular communication. You mentioned it is a 5985 and 5986. 5985 is a HTTP, 5986 is a HTTPS. So okay, this is a particular TCP communication which is happening with the port number 5985 and 5986. Hey, go and connect to the PowerShell. So those communication will happen with this PowerShell, and same TCP communication is coming over the network, and you wants to see what kind of transport. It is a TCP transport, and then what is the port number you will get? You see it's a 389 is a port number. Oh, then it will understand, okay, it's a TCP communication only, but it is coming with a port number 389. Go and connect to Active Directory. Then there is a requirement. Hey, I don't want any communication which is happening with Active Directory. Can you please stop the communication? What the people do, they go and block this particular TCP port. TCP port number 389, they will block it. So what happens? The communication will never happen. That is what the difference between TCP communication, UDP communication. So hope this gave you a little idea why we are blocking the ports, how the communication is happening. Thank you very much. See you in the next chapter.